There comes a definitive point in any deep, intentional period of fasting where the atmosphere around you fundamentally changes. It's not a physical sensation like hunger, but an internal tremor, a profound, almost jarring shift in your spiritual reality. You might feel an inexplicable heaviness, a noticeable resistance, or a strange, echoing silence that prompts a crucial question. Is this the voice of God drawing me closer, or is this the enemy launching a strategic counter-attack? Understanding the subtle dynamics of this shift is absolutely essential. The warnings we will discuss today are the spiritual compass you need, specifically designed to shield your breakthrough from spiritual sabotage. They are the keys to maintaining what heaven is actively preparing for you. Fasting is far more than just a momentary break from food or a simple act of self-discipline. It serves as a powerful hidden gateway, a sacred threshold that only a select few are willing and determined enough to cross. The moment your spirit commits to this fast, you step into a new energetic field. Suddenly, the external world seems to recede and grow quiet, while the realm of the spirit leans in, becoming startlingly close and present. This period is a holy and exclusive invitation, a time when the divine pulls you into an exponentially deeper dimension, systematically stripping away every form of noise and distraction. This allows God to reveal profound truths that could never be absorbed or truly heard amidst the clamor and routine of your ordinary, everyday existence. However, stepping across this threshold into deeper communion brings with it a necessary exposure. It is real and undeniable. As the voice of heaven becomes clearer, the forces that oppose your purpose, the enemy, become restless, agitated, and intensely focused on you. You may notice old, familiar shadows attempting to resurface, the intensity of silent internal battles increasing exponentially, and the general feeling of being under pressure. This critical, vulnerable phase is precisely where many people forfeit the deep work and the coming blessings that God was on the verge of releasing into their lives. They allow confusion or discomfort to lead them away from the promise. This is the primary reason you cannot embark on a fast without spiritual sight. You cannot enter a battlefield, which a genuine fast truly is, without the ability to recognize the vital signposts and warnings that God strategically places directly in your path. These signs aren't meant to frighten you. They are intended to protect your integrity, sharpen your spiritual senses, and inoculate you against the singular, catastrophic mistake that frequently allows the enemy to steal the very break through heaven has been meticulously preparing for your life. In the following sections, we will methodically uncover 5 of these critical divine warnings that chosen ones typically experience during a deep fast. Listen with your whole spirit, because each of these warnings carries a spiritual weight that has the power to drastically alter the course and direction of your entire current season and beyond. Recognizing them is the difference between a successful fast that yields fruit and one that ends prematurely. Understanding them transforms a challenge into a confirmation of your progress. 1. The sudden spiritual silence. A test of maturity, the first profound warning God sends during a fast, is an experience that nearly every chosen one initially misinterprets. The sudden and persistent spiritual silence. You likely began your fast filled with spiritual passion. Your prayers felt potent, your worship was vibrant and emotionally alive, and you sensed the immediate nearness of God in every action. Then, without a tangible reason or a specific failure, the spiritual atmosphere shifts dramatically. You pray and feel absolutely nothing. You try to worship and the emotional resonance is absent. You open your Bible and the sacred words seem dry, flat, and uninspired. It feels unequivocally as though heaven has deliberately and inexplicably lowered its volume just for you. But listen to this truth with great care. This silence is absolutely not God abandoning you. Instead, it is a deliberate and essential change in the very mechanism of how He chooses to speak and relate to you. When you were spiritually immature, God often confirmed things with overt sensations, chills, tears, overwhelming emotions, and obvious external signs. Now, as you mature into a chosen one, He is intentionally training your spirit to recognize His continuous presence beyond the need for an emotional echo. In this quiet, emotionally flat space, God is expertly separating your deep faith from your momentary mood, isolating your foundational trust from fleeting sensations, and refining your obedience to be independent of your desperate need to feel something dramatic every single time. He is not, for a second, ignoring you. He is keenly observing what you choose to do when you feel utterly ignored. This critical phase is the ultimate examination in discernment, testing the very core of your commitment. The enemy is intimately familiar with this particular phase, and he will attack it with aggressive precision. In the intentional quietness of the fast, his destructive whispers amplify. He'll hiss doubts. See, God clearly isn't listening. Nothing is actually happening. Your fast is pointless. You're just needlessly starving yourself. He will relentlessly dredge up every past disappointment, every single unanswered prayer, every moment where you felt God was delayed or absent. His goal is to make you falsely interpret this temporary silence as permanent abandonment, when the profound reality is that silence is precisely where God often conceals and executes His deepest, most transformative work. During this specific warning, your inner spirit is being intensely stretched and fortified. Your physical flesh screams desperately for a clear sign, for an intense sensation, for something overtly dramatic to prove that heaven still cares about your efforts. But what if the genuine proof isn't found in what you feel or experience externally, but rather in the person you become while you consciously choose to feel absolutely nothing? This is the period where you learn to pray solely out of deep, unshakable commitment, not because you feel suddenly inspired. You learn to worship because He is fundamentally worthy of all glory, not because a wave of emotion washes over you. You continue to fast purely because you heard His initial call, not because you're emotionally chasing a fleeting spiritual goosebump or a dramatic sign. In this crucial phase, the single most powerful and impactful thing you can possibly do is remarkably simple. Do not move. Do not rush to prematurely alter the terms of your fast. Do not lower your original commitment level. Do not shorten your fast merely to escape the inevitable discomfort and spiritual flatness. Hold your spiritual position. Keep showing up consistently in prayer, even when your words feel empty and dry. Keep opening the Bible, even when the text feels heavy and laborious to read. Continue speaking to God, even if it feels overwhelmingly like a one-way, solitary conversation. In the unseen spiritual realm, your unwavering consistency and determination in the face of silence are, in fact, shouting louder than any emotionally charged prayer you have ever uttered. Heaven is intently watching to see, will you steadfastly trust in who God is, even when you no longer feel the emotional comforts you once did? This is discernment operating at a significantly higher and purer level. The spiritual silence you perceive is not a void, it is a profound echo chamber. In that silence, God is clearly exposing and revealing which voice you believe first and hold on to. The voice of your own deeply rooted fear, the voice of your past failures, the voice of the manipulative enemy, or the clear foundational voice of what He already definitively spoke to you before the fast even started. The gravest mistake a chosen one can make here is to falsely interpret a temporary silence as a permanent, negative verdict. So many people tragically walk away right at the very threshold of a massive breakthrough simply because they cannot endure the experience of not feeling overtly spiritual or emotionally connected. But those few who stay, those who continue to resolutely walk through this quiet, testing valley, consistently discover something exceptionally rare: a steady, unshakable, and purely faith-based awareness of God that no fleeting emotion can ever manufacture and no external attack can ever destroy. If you are experiencing this profound silence now, it is not a sign that God has retreated from you. It is a powerful sign that He has pulled you into a deeper, more rigorous classroom. 2. Intensified temptation, proof of progress just when your physical flesh begins to settle down and your spirit starts to adapt to the profound, holy quiet. Something entirely different begins to vigorously rise, pressing aggressively against your mind and body, attempting to violently drag you out of the deep inner work God is painstakingly building inside you. The second warning appears the very moment your spirit begins its upward ascent, rising clearly above old, controlling patterns, intensified temptation. It often creeps in subtly at first, almost perfectly disguised as a simple coincidence or a momentary weakness. But understand this, absolutely nothing about this phase is accidental or random. The enemy has meticulously observed and studied you for an extended time, and he knows precisely where your physical flesh is most vulnerable, exactly which painful past memories can most effectively distract you, and which specific, deep-seated desires can instantly shake your focus. During a spiritual fast, when your inner spirit is powerfully climbing toward a higher plane and your physical flesh is purposefully weakened, he strikes those exact, most sensitive pressure points with ruthless precision. Suddenly, cravings that you barely noticed before become explosively overwhelming. This isn't just basic physical hunger. It's a profound emotional hunger, a deep spiritual restlessness, and often a disruptive relational hunger. A toxic thought you successfully buried years ago aggressively resurfaces without a moment's warning. A destructive desire you thought you had thoroughly conquered tries to menacingly crawl back into your heart. A specific temptation you were certain was gone forever returns, feeling sharper, more appealing, and more potent than ever before. You may even observe that people from your distant past inexplicably reappear. Opportunities seemingly pop up completely out of nowhere. Old, bad habits whisper urgently for your attention, or emotional wounds you were absolutely sure were healed begin to suddenly ache and itch again. This is not spiritual regression. This is essential exposure. Fasting has the power to pull the deeply embedded roots of the flesh upward and out, so that God can surgically remove them completely. But the enemy sees those exposed, raw roots and tries desperately to wrap them around you, attempting to anchor you before God can sever them for good. He doesn't waste his energy attacking what is already weak. He attacks what is actively transforming and becoming strong. He can sense the significant spiritual movement occurring within you, so he drastically multiplies the external pressure. And here is a crucial point that most chosen ones entirely fail to grasp. Temptation during a fast is not solely about falling into sin. It is fundamentally about interruption. He doesn't even need you to morally fail. He simply needs you to stop the spiritual momentum. If he can't successfully make you break the fast through external, sinful actions, he will aggressively try to make you break it in your inner thoughts and will. You might suddenly feel intensely irritated for absolutely no discernible reason, become inexplicably restless, feel emotionally unstable and easily triggered. Your flesh is violently protesting the profound spiritual detox that your committed spirit is forcefully putting it through. The enemy aggressively amplifies these negative reactions, hoping to convince you that something is fundamentally wrong with the fast itself. However, the profound truth is this: the intense shaking you feel is unmistakable proof of your progress. The resistance you encounter is definitive proof that your fast is actually working and achieving its intended spiritual goal. Consider it like this: when a significant storm is actively forming, the atmosphere surrounding it becomes unstable, winds dramatically pick up, pressure changes rapidly, and everything feels chaotic and tense just before the breakthrough of the rain. In the exact same way, intense temptation escalates because your spirit is powerfully beginning to surpass the old limitations and boundaries that once effortlessly controlled you. This is the divine moment where God solidifies and strengthens the very areas that historically caused you to stumble. This is the phase where your spirit exposes the hidden cracks so that God can fully and permanently reinforce them. This is the pivotal moment where the enemy senses his limited window of opportunity rapidly closing and launches his final, desperate wave of pressure. You are not being tested because you are inherently weak. You are being tested because you are rapidly becoming spiritually dangerous and effective. Every single time you successfully resist a temptation during this fast, something crucial snaps within you, a chain loosens, a toxic cycle weakens its grip, and a spiritual muscle expands its capacity. The enemy does not genuinely fear your abstinence from food. He deeply fears what your fast is powerfully awakening within your spirit. That is why the external pressure dramatically rises before the blessing is fully delivered. But there is a most hidden and dangerous layer to this particular warning that very few ever truly see. Temptation is not always loud and dramatic. Sometimes it arrives expertly disguised as soothing, necessary comfort. The pervasive desire to simply ease up, even just a little. The deceptive thought that one small break from the commitment won't cause any real harm. The seductive idea that you've already done enough to earn a reward. But recognize that every single tiny compromise made during a period of deep fasting carries a significant spiritual cost. Small, seemingly insignificant cracks quickly become wide open spiritual doors. Brief moments of indulgence can instantly disconnect you from the heightened spiritual frequency God is actively trying to tune your heart into. That is why this warning carries such divine urgency. Guard your mind with vigilance. Guard your physical flesh with commitment. Guard your spiritual focus with dedication, not because God is cruel or harsh, but precisely because your massive break through is close. It is very, very close, and the enemy is fully aware of its imminent arrival. The extreme pressure you are feeling is simply the pressure of spiritual elevation. The intense temptation you are facing is merely the stubborn residue of what God is actively burning and purging out of you. 3. Emotional turbulence, spiritual detox of the soul, just when the aggressive temptation finally feels like it is reaching its fever pitch. Something else entirely begins to stir. Something deeper, far more emotional, and intensely personal, which shifts the primary battlefield from your external body to your inner heart. The third warning arrives in a way that often catches even the most spiritually seasoned chosen ones completely off guard. Emotional turbulence. It doesn't arrive politely or wait for a convenient moment. It often erupts like a volcano. One day, you feel steady, perfectly focused, and spiritually sharp. The very next day, a massive wave of inexplicable sadness hits you so forcefully that you cannot logically explain its origin. Or intense anger rises up from a place you honestly thought no longer existed within your soul. Or a profound, crushing heaviness settles over your chest, feeling like a physical weight you simply cannot shake off. You are left wondering, why now? Why during a fast? Shouldn't I be feeling closer to God, not more overwhelmed and chaotic? But this is the hidden, liberating truth you must grasp. Fasting doesn't merely expose the weaknesses of the flesh. It profoundly exposes the core of the heart. It acts as a powerful revealer of everything that has been carefully buried beneath years of relentless survival, heavy responsibilities, painful disappointments, and all the silent, undealt, with wounds you never found the proper time or space to genuinely face. When your physical body is intentionally weakened through the fast, the protective walls of your soul begin to crack open, and everything that was emotionally trapped inside starts to rise to the surface. This is not divine punishment. This is profound purification. The fast is not intended to break you. It is meticulously designed to empty you out completely. Anything that unexpectedly rises to the surface during this intense phase is something God is urgently attempting to completely heal, uproot permanently, or finally release you from. Old painful memories return not for the purpose of tormenting you, but to clearly show you what emotional strongholds still possess power over your present life. Forgotten, damaging conversations echo relentlessly in your mind because God is specifically revealing where your fundamental self-worth was damaged or compromised. Emotions you were convinced were long gone start aggressively pushing upward because the Spirit of God is pulling them out by their deepest root structure. You might suddenly feel an overwhelming grief for moments you didn't properly mourn years ago. You may feel a fiery anger over a deep offense you never admitted truly hurt you. You may experience a paralyzing loneliness you have diligently ignored under layers of busyness, productivity, and faithful religious activity. Do not, under any circumstances, misinterpret this chaos. You are not spiritually going backward. You are actively being cleansed. This powerful emotional turbulence is the spiritual detox of your soul's deepest toxicity. When the human heart is overloaded with years of unprocessed pain and negative emotion, the spirit cannot rise freely or operate effectively. Therefore, God purposefully allows these intense emotions to surface, not to destroy you, but to powerfully set you free. But here is where the enemy launches his most vicious fight. He attempts to convince you that these resurfacing emotions are undeniable proof that you are failing the fast. He whispers, "See, you're not strong after all. You're mentally unstable. Your fast is making everything worse. Stop immediately." But what he desperately does not want you to realize is that these volatile emotions were always there, skillfully hiding just beneath the surface, quietly polluting your decisions, skewing your perceptions, negatively affecting your relationships, and fundamentally limiting your spiritual sensitivity. Fasting simply forces these deep toxins to rise to the surface so that God can permanently remove them from your soul. And the process of spiritual removal always feels and looks like chaos and disruption before it finally settles into profound healing and peace. This is why God's divine warning in this specific phase is so direct and clear. Do not run from what is resurfacing. If you run away from it, it remains trapped inside you. If you courageously face it in God's presence, its power over you fundamentally breaks. Many chosen ones severely sabotage their coming break through here because they falsely mistake this intense emotional shaking for a fundamental spiritual failure. But this is the exact moment when the deepest, most lasting transformation is actively taking place. Tears that are shed during a spiritual fast are not signs of weakness or failure. They are undeniable signs of deep release. They are spiritual surgery happening without the benefit of anesthesia. They are the gentle yet firm hands of God touching painful, hidden places you have avoided for years. Every single intense emotion that rises to the surface carries one clear, urgent message. This can no longer remain trapped within you. And when you finally allow God to meticulously clean out the emotional contamination that has been polluting your spirit, something immensely powerful happens. Clarity quickly returns. An unshakable peace becomes sharper and more defined. Your spiritual discernment deepens significantly. The noise of internal conflict quietly subsides, and your entire spirit becomes lighter, freer, and exponentially more receptive to the voice of God. 4. The sudden rise of spiritual clarity. Vision for the next season, however. Emotional turbulence is only the beginning of this profound internal shift. Because once your heart has been exposed and your spirit becomes exceptionally sensitive, something far more mysterious begins to unfold. Something that does not just stir up emotions, but actually opens your spiritual eyes to essential realities you were entirely failing to see before. The fourth warning arrives quietly, but with a depth that can shake a chosen one to their core, the sudden rise of spiritual clarity. This phase begins the very moment your physical flesh finally grows quiet enough for your spirit to truly breathe without constraint. When the deafening noise of physical cravings, emotional turmoil, and sensory impulses finally loses its strong, controlling grip, a brand new spiritual frequency suddenly opens up. This is a frequency your spirit was always meant to hear and operate on, but could never access while the demands of the physical body were entirely running the show. Once this new spiritual frequency is accessible, absolutely everything changes in your perception. Your dreams begin to intensify dramatically, but not in a chaotic or random pattern. They become structured, highly symbolic, and intentional in their communication. You will wake up remembering specific, complex details that you would typically instantly forget. You will witness scenes that feel intensely prophetic, rather than simply familiar everyday occurrences. Some dreams feel like explicit warnings. Others feel like clear, direct instructions. Still others feel like profound mysteries wrapped in spiritual light. You may even wake up with the distinct sensation that the dream wasn't just something you saw. It was a reality your spirit was consciously moved into. This is not mere imagination. This is spiritual activation. Your spirit is actively stepping into territories and levels of awareness it could not enter before the fast. Then, the Holy Scripture begins to behave differently and powerfully. Verses you've easily read 100 times suddenly pierce you with a conviction, as if they had never existed until this very moment. A single short phrase feels intensely personal, as if it was written specifically for your immediate situation. A seemingly ancient story in the Bible directly aligns with something powerfully happening around you in real time. This is not mere coincidence, it is divine alignment. God is purposefully pulling back the veil so that you can see the essential, invisible patterns actively guiding your current season and future. And then comes an almost startling new level of discernment. It's sharp, sudden, and occasionally unsettling. You perceive the true intentions hidden behind people's words with striking, undeniable clarity. You sense spiritual danger before it has a chance to physically manifest. You feel manipulation and deception before it even successfully reaches you. You recognize aggressive spiritual attacks before they fully take form. Your intuition becomes precise and logical, not emotional or vague. Your insight becomes heavy with truth, not generalized or shallow. In the environment of a deep fast, this intensified discernment becomes a sharp weapon, not used for fear, but for unwavering spiritual direction. It instantly shows you precisely where to firmly step and where to absolutely refuse to step. It reveals what was cunningly hidden behind friendly smiles, attractive opportunities, familiar relationships, and even your own subtle, self-sabotaging thoughts. Many chosen ones simply do not realize this, but when their spiritual clarity dramatically increases, it is a definitive sign that the battlefield immediately surrounding them is shifting. God never significantly increases your spiritual vision without simultaneously preparing you for a major movement. He never heightens your sensitivity unless something crucial is rapidly approaching. A fundamental life change, a new mission assignment, a significant breakthrough, or a profound spiritual confrontation. So, he whispers secrets to you through vivid dreams. He gently nudges you forward through strong inner impressions. He illuminates your understanding through Scripture. He urgently alerts you through sudden, sharp discernment. All of this unified communication carries one single, urgent message from heaven: pay close attention. What you are able to truly see and understand in this phase will entirely shape and define the next season of your entire life. This is why the enemy deeply hates this specific part of the fast more than any other, because once you see a truth clearly, you can never truly unsee it. Once you discern deception, you cease to fall for the obvious traps. Once you recognize God's specific voice, you stop chasing all the noise. Once you see the true spiritual patterns at play, you stop living in blind ignorance. When spiritual clarity rises, the enemy instantly loses all significant influence. When divine revelation comes, confusion utterly collapses and dissipates. When your spirit fully awakens and engages, the surrounding darkness begins to panic and retreat. You may notice that people who once felt safe and comforting now feel spiritually unsettling or off balance. Plans you once passionately wanted suddenly no longer align with your spirit's compass. Deep desires shift, core motivations change. You begin to see clearly beyond the superficial surface and into the underlying intentions. into the spiritual atmospheres, and into the emerging futures being actively shaped in real time. This kind of clarity is not random or accidental. It represents your spiritual eyes finally opening after years of being only half awake and passive. It is the Spirit of God guiding you with precise detail through territory that is literally rearranging itself around the authority of your obedience. It is heaven explicitly saying, "You are stepping into something powerfully new. I need you to be fully alert, aware, and engaged." But this heightened clarity brings one more element with it, something even deeper, more defining, and ultimately more revealing. 5. False opportunities. The counterfeit trap, because once heaven has successfully sharpened your sight, it immediately prepares you for the final and most deceptive warning of the fast. The critical moment when spiritual clarity becomes so strong that the enemy's last desperate weapon is to subtly disguise his darkness as alluring light. The fifth warning is the most deceptive, the most subtle, and often the most fundamentally dangerous. The sudden appearance of false opportunities and perfectly timed, attractive distractions. This is the exact phase where the enemy entirely stops trying to intimidate you and instead attempts to imitate God's movements. Once he fully realizes he cannot break you with silence, aggressive temptations, or emotional upheaval, and once he witnesses your spiritual clarity powerfully rising, he changes his overall strategy completely. Now, he attempts to lure you away from the path with something that looks undeniably good, feels perfectly right, or arrives aggressively wrapped in a manufactured sense of urgency. It always begins with the exact same pattern. Something seemingly perfect appears completely out of nowhere. A person suddenly reaches out to you after months or even years of total silence. A job offer or business opportunity appears with a seductive once in a lifetime energy. A strategic door opens that seems far too aligned to be simply random. A compelling message arrives at the precise moment your spirit is open and vulnerable. And at first glance, it feels undeniably divine. It feels clearly planned. It feels truly sent from God. But you must firmly remember this truth. The enemy meticulously studied your weaknesses long before you even began this fast. He knows exactly what fundamentally attracts your heart. He knows what you have been desperately praying for. He knows precisely what you are deeply afraid to lose. He knows what feels immediately comforting and familiar when you are spiritually weakened and exhausted. And during this deep fast, your spiritual light has become intensely brighter, so bright that it attracts not only the attention of heaven, but also the sharp, focused attention of everything that actively opposes heaven's will for your life. The enemy patiently waits for the exact moment when your guard is lowered, your emotions are open from the turbulence, and your newly sharpened discernment is still trying to adjust to the light. Then he releases the counterfeit, a distraction skillfully disguised as your destiny. It might arrive as a new relationship that seems instantly meaningful, but stealthily pulls you into a destructive emotional dependency. It might look exactly like an opportunity that promises quick, massive results, but quietly drains your spiritual focus and energy. It might come as a seemingly harmless invitation that slowly steals your valuable time, spiritual energy, and profound momentum. These specific distractions are not designed to appear overtly sinful or wrong. In fact, they almost always appear harmless, comforting, familiar, or even genuinely spiritual on the surface. That is precisely what makes them so spiritually deadly. They flawlessly mimic God's perfect timing, but they fundamentally lack God's pure character. They imitate the external appearance of God's blessings, but they completely lack God's deep, abiding peace. They arrive with aggressive speed, but they slowly and insidiously unravel your spiritual progress. And here is the absolute core of this final, critical warning. If it clearly wasn't from God before the fast began, it is not suddenly, miraculously from God during the fast. God never contradicts his own nature. He does not intentionally confuse you. He does not rush your process. He absolutely does not interrupt the specific fast he himself called you into. Anything that aggressively demands immediate action, intense emotional investment, or sudden, unexamined decision-making during the commitment of a fast is almost always an undeniable spiritual trap. You will consistently notice one definitive pattern with every single counterfeit that appears. Instead of drawing you closer to God and your purpose, it quietly and subtly pulls you far away. Your focused prayer time dramatically decreases. Your thoughts become scattered and anxious. Your spirit feels an increasing sense of uneasy disruption. Your previous clarity becomes cloudy and uncertain. You feel intensely pressured instead of gently guided by the Holy Spirit. This is the enemy's ultimate goal, not to cause you to fall in a dramatic, visible way, but to successfully make you drift subtly off course, to take your spiritual focus just one tiny degree off your alignment. Because one single degree off course in the spiritual realm eventually translates into miles off course from your ultimate destiny. That is why this warning is wrapped in such profound, divine urgency. Stay anchored, stay firmly rooted in your original commitment. Stay utterly unmoved by external pressure. Do not instantly respond to every unexpected knock on your door. Not every voice, however sweet, deserves your immediate attention. Not every seemingly great opportunity deserves your precious energy. Not every reunion deserves your deeply held heart. The genuine blessing God has fully prepared for you does not arrive to distract you, it arrives to confirm you. The true blessing from God does not demand you to break your fast. It strongly reinforces the very reason you started it. The blessing from God does not interrupt your necessary spiritual process. It patiently waits for your obedience to be completely fulfilled. Counterfeits aggressively rush in during the fast. The real, potent blessing comes powerfully after obedience is fully complete. The enemy knows that the blessing waiting for you on the other side of this completed fast is far too powerful, too elevated, and too aligned with your destiny for him to allow it unhindered. So he tries to intercept and derail you just before you successfully reach it. But you are now smarter, your spirit is sharper, and your discernment is wide awake. You have come too far in this commitment to be derailed in the final stretch. Fasting is a battlefield cleverly disguised as a simple devotion, a sacred proving ground where heaven meticulously watches every step you take, and the unseen realm violently reacts to every single decision you make. Nothing you have experienced in this profound journey was random or accidental. Every silence, every temptation, every emotion rising from your depths, every sudden moment of clarity, every attractive counterfeit distraction, it was all an essential part of a divine orchestration, specifically preparing you for a level of spiritual power and authority that very few ever truly touch. And now, you stand powerfully at the very edge of something holy, something weighty, something that will not just momentarily change your fast, but will realign your entire destiny's trajectory. Because when God sends a warning, He is never trying to merely frighten you. He is trying to definitively secure you, protect your process, and strategically position you for the next level. He does not reveal hidden danger to intimidate your spirit. He reveals it to permanently elevate your authority. Every single sign and warning He placed before you was actively shaping you into the very person the enemy hoped you would never become. Someone alert, someone spiritually sharpened, someone unshakable, someone spiritually dangerous and effective. If you've been feeling deeply stretched, it is because God was powerfully widening your capacity to carry more. If you've been feeling intense pressure, it is because heaven was forging your spiritual authority. If you've been wrestling in silence, it is because your spirit was being fundamentally rewired for a greater, more significant assignment. Chosen one, nothing essential in you is breaking or failing. Everything essential in you is powerfully awakening. Your fast is not weakening your resolve. It is actively weaponizing your spirit. Your silence is not emptiness or abandonment. It is purposeful alignment. Your intense struggle is not a sign of failure. It is definitive transformation taking place. God didn't bring you this far only to leave you exactly the same. He brought you here to unlock a completely new version of you, a version that can effectively carry the heavy weight of the next season without collapsing under the pressure. And now you are faced with a choice. Not a small choice, not an emotional choice, but a destiny-shifting choice. Will you resolutely hold your spiritual ground until the breakthrough God has meticulously prepared finally reaches you? Because hear this with the full attention of your spirit, the real, lasting blessing, the unshakable clarity, the profound acceleration, they do not fully arrive during the fast. They come powerfully after your obedience is complete. You are closer than you feel, closer than you think, and closer than the enemy wants you to believe. You are one deliberate decision away from powerfully stepping into the very thing the enemy aggressively tried to steal from you through distraction. You are one final, definitive act of obedience away from a massive shift that will dramatically echo into every single area of your life. If you are ready, truly and unreservedly ready, for God to finish the deep work He purposefully started inside of you during this fast, then declare it right now. Not quietly, not timidly, but with full, unshakable spiritual authority. Comment below now, I will not break my fast. This is far more than just a simple sentence or an affirmation. It is a spiritual seal. It is a powerful, signed spiritual signature. It is you declaring to heaven, I choose obedience above all else. It is you forcefully telling the enemy, your strategies have utterly failed and hold no power over me. It is you definitively telling your own physical flesh, you do not rule my decisions anymore. Speak it, type it, declare it with conviction, and allow this very moment, this exact second, to be where your breakthrough finally begins to forcefully move toward you with unyielding, unstoppable power.